Tycoon left wife for mistress. At the gala, saw her on the dance floor holding their child. He turned to her, forcing the corners of his mouth upward. I know, but his eyes, restless, haunted, scanned the room. Not for investors, not for rivals, for ghosts. 8 months. 8 months since he walked out on Isabella. 8 months since he kissed his sleeping son's forehead and whispered, Daddy will be back soon, knowing it was a lie even as it left his lips. 8 months since he traded bedtime stories for rooftop parties, traded her quiet strength for Livia's intoxicating chaos. He told himself it was freedom. He told himself Isabella had become predictable, safe, boring, that her love was a cage lined with velvet, and he needed air, wild, reckless, electric air. Livia gave him that, or so he thought. Alexander, a voice called smooth corporate. Marcus Langley, his CFO, clapped him on the back. Speech in 10. You ready to wow them? Alexander nodded, sipping his whiskey, the burn doing nothing to warm him. Always. But as Marcus walked away, Livia leaned in again, her perfume, jasmine and something synthetic, suddenly suffocating. After the speech, let's dance. I want everyone to see us. Together. He didn't answer, because in that moment, his gaze snagged on the entrance. And time stopped. There she was. Isabella. Not broken. Not bitter. Not hiding. She stood tall in a simple navy dress that hugged her curves like a memory. Her dark hair swept into a loose chignon, a single pearl at her throat, the one he'd given her on their 5th anniversary. Elegant, untouchable, radiant in her quiet dignity. And in her arms, small, bright-eyed, clutching a stuffed dinosaur, was Theo, his son, their son. Alexander's breath caught. His glass trembled in his hand. The music, the chatter, the clinking, it all faded into white noise. All he could hear was the thudding of his own heart, hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Theo looked up at Isabella, giggling as she whispered something in his ear. She smiled down at him, that smile, the one that used to melt him, the one that said, You're my whole world, without needing words. Livia followed his gaze. Her grip on his arm tightened. What is she doing here? She hissed. She wasn't invited. Alexander couldn't answer. Isabella hadn't come for drama. She hadn't come to scream or cry or throw wine in his face. She'd come to be seen, to remind him and everyone that she still existed, that Theo still existed, that their life, the one he'd walked away from, hadn't crumbled. It had endured. It had grown. Without him, she met his eyes across the room, just for a second. No anger, no pleading, just acknowledgement, a quiet, devastating, I see you seeing me. And then she looked away, as if he were nothing more than a stranger in a crowd. Theo tugged at her hand. Mama, dance with me. Isabella hesitated, just a flicker of vulnerability, then nodded. All right, meu amor. One dance. She stepped onto the floor, not to impress, not to perform, just to dance with her son. The orchestra swelled into a gentle waltz. Isabella lifted Theo into her arms, spinning slowly, his little feet kicking in delight, his laughter ringing like bells in Alexander's soul. She held him close, cheek pressed to his, eyes closed for a moment, savoring, protecting, loving. Alexander stood frozen. Memories crashed over him like waves. Theo's first steps, Isabella cheering, camera in hand, while he took a business call. Theo's first fever. Isabella up all night, cool cloth on his brow, while he slept in the guest room after an argument. Theo whispering, Papa, when you coming home? And him brushing it off with, soon, buddy. Daddy's busy. He told himself he was building a legacy. But watching them now, mother and son, swaying in perfect harmony, surrounded by glittering strangers who meant nothing, he realized the truth. He hadn't built anything. He'd torn down everything that mattered. Livia's voice cut through his thoughts, sharp with panic. Alexander, say something. Do something. She's humiliating you. He turned to her, eyes glazed with pain. She's not humiliating me, Livia. She's reminding me. Of what? Of what I threw away. Livia's face hardened. You chose me. Don't you dare regret it now. He didn't answer, because he was already walking. Not toward Livia, not toward the stage. Toward them. Toward Isabella. Toward Theo. Toward the wreckage of his own making. The crowd parted slightly, sensing the shift in the air. Whispers began. Phones lifted. Cameras focused. Isabella didn't stop dancing. She kept Theo close, humming softly in his ear, shielding him from the spectacle, from the father who'd vanished and now dared to return. Alexander stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the freckles on Theo's nose, close enough to smell Isabella's perfume. Vanilla and rain, unchanged after all these years. Close enough to see the faint scar on her thumb from when she'd cut herself cooking his favorite pasta. Theo, he whispered, voice cracking. You look so big. Theo turned, eyes wide. Papa. Isabella's body tensed, but she didn't pull away, didn't run, just held her son tighter. Alexander's throat tightened. Hi, buddy. Theo squirmed in her arms. Mama, Papa's here. Isabella finally looked at him, not with hatred, not with hope, with exhaustion, the kind that comes after months of holding yourself together when no one else will. Alexander, she said, voice steady low, this isn't the place. I know, he choked out. I had to see him. You. She studied him, the shadows under his eyes, the tremor in his hands, the way his suit hung slightly looser, as if he'd forgotten to eat. You look tired. He laughed. A broken, humorless sound. I am. Theo reached out. Papa, dance with us. Alexander's eyes filled. I don't know how. Isabella's gaze softened just a fraction. Then learn. And with that, she turned away, continuing to dance with Theo, humming louder now, drowning out the world. Alexander stood there, shattered. The applause for his speech began, distant, meaningless. Livia grabbed his arm. Come on, they're waiting for you. He shook her off. No, I'm not going. You're embarrassing me. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time he didn't see passion. He saw performance. He saw escape. He saw everything he'd mistaken for love. I'm done embarrassing myself, he said quietly. He walked back to the dance floor. Not to join them, not yet, but to watch, to remember, to ache. Because for the first time in 8 months, Alexander Vance felt something real. Regret. And it was the most beautiful, most painful thing he'd ever known. The music swirled. Theo laughed. Isabella closed her eyes and danced like no one was watching, even though everyone was. And Alexander? He stood in the shadows, tears slipping silently down his cheeks, finally understanding what he'd lost. Not a wife, not a mistress, but a family. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to fight for it. Even if he didn't deserve it. Even if he had to start from nothing. Even if the only thing left to offer was a broken heart and a whispered apology. He would, because for the first time in years, he wanted to be worthy of that dance. Certo, agora tu como narrador e storyteller desenvolva a historia sem marcacos com o nome de cada topico que for desenvolve. Mi canti sobrio topico tu com dialogo como su fosso espectador. Sempre lembrando de desenvolver com vida moco. Com vidos sentimentos de forma que a estrutura de narrativa utiliza uma linha temporal linear de modo o espectador sentir o que o personagem está sentindo amigos. Com 6.000 characters coin 3 max. Preview. You think you know what silence sounds like until you've lived inside it. Not the quiet of an empty house, not the hush of nightfall, but the silence that follows a door closing for the last time. The kind that settles into your bones like winter frost. The kind that wraps around your throat when you tuck your child into bed and he asks, "When is Papa coming home?" And you have to smile through the crack in your soul and whisper, "Soon, meu amor." Even though you know it's a lie you're telling to protect him, and maybe yourself. That's where Isabella Vance lived now. Not in the penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city Alexander built. Not in the designer gowns or charity galas or whispered society scandals. No, she lived in a small, sunlit apartment on the edge of the city, where the walls were painted butter yellow and the floors creaked under tiny running feet, where bedtime stories were read twice because Theo insisted, where macaroni and cheese was made from scratch, slightly burnt sometimes, and eaten cross-legged on the living room rug. She lived in the quiet, and in that quiet, she rebuilt herself, not for revenge, not for show, for Theo, always for Theo. The morning after Alexander left, suitcase in hand, eyes avoiding hers, voice clipped with rehearsed lines about needing space, feeling trapped, wanting to breathe, Isabella didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't throw his favorite watch against the wall like she wanted to. She made pancakes, blueberry pancakes, Theo's favorite. She flipped them with steady hands, humming a lullaby she used to sing when he was a baby. When he came running into the kitchen in his dinosaur pajamas, she smiled wide, bright, unwavering. "Papa gone?" he asked, climbing onto his chair. She set the plate in front of him. "Just for a little while, sweetheart." "Why?" She poured syrup. Grown-ups sometimes need time to figure things out. He accepted that. Children believe in the goodness of their world until it shatters, and Isabella refused to be the one to shatter his. But after he went to school, she collapsed. Right there on the kitchen floor, back pressed against the cabinets, knees pulled to her chest, silent sobs racking her body until she couldn't breathe. She didn't make a sound, not one, because even in her grief, she was protecting him, protecting the illusion that everything was okay. That was the day she made a promise, to herself, to Theo, to the ghost of the woman she used to be. She would not break. She would bend. She would ache. She would cry into pillows at 3 a.m. when Theo was asleep. She would stare at old photos and wonder where she went wrong. She would Google how to survive divorce when you still love him and delete the history before dawn. But she would not break. Months passed. Alexander sent money, expensive gifts for Theo, remote-controlled cars, designer sneakers, a tablet loaded with games. Never a note, never a call, never a "how are you?" Isabella accepted the money for Theo's sake, but she returned the gifts, every single one, with a simple note: "He doesn't need things. He needs you." Alexander never responded. Livia posted photos on Instagram, rooftop parties, tropical getaways, Alexander kissing her neck in front of fireworks. Isabella didn't block her, didn't unfollow. She watched, not out of masochism, out of necessity. She needed to see the truth, to let it carve out the last soft places in her heart. She stopped crying, stopped waiting, stopped hoping, and started living. She sold her jewelry, the diamond tennis bracelet from their 10th anniversary, the pearl earrings he bought in Paris, the emerald ring he slipped on her finger after Theo was born. Each piece felt like shedding skin, painful, necessary. With the money, she bought art supplies, canvas, paint, brushes, and she painted, not landscapes, not abstract swirls. She painted Theo, Theo sleeping, thumb in mouth, Theo laughing, syrup on his chin, Theo crying after scraping his knee, tears like diamonds on flushed cheeks. She painted the ache, the love, the loneliness, the resilience, and slowly, the world noticed. A local cafe owner saw her work and asked to hang a few pieces. Then a boutique gallery. Then a critic wrote a review. Isabella Vance, motherhood as masterpiece, raw, tender, devastatingly human. She didn't use her married name at first, just Vance. But the whispers started anyway. Isn't that Alexander Vance's wife? Ex-wife? Whatever. She's the one he left for that girl. Look at her. She's glowing. She's surviving. No, she's thriving. The invitation to the gala arrived in a crisp white envelope, embossed with gold. Alexander Vance presents. The grand unveiling of the Vance Tower. Isabella stared at it for a long time. Theo sat at the table coloring. "Mama, what's that?" She didn't answer right away. Her fingers traced the elegant script. The date, the location, the unspoken message. Look what I built without you. She could ignore it, throw it away, pretend it didn't exist. But something stirred in her, not anger, not bitterness, resolve. She looked at Theo. It's a party, baby. A big one. Can we go? She smiled. Yes, we're going. Not to confront him, not to make a scene, but to show him, to show everyone, that she was still here, that Theo was still here, that their love, the real, quiet, enduring kind, hadn't died when Alexander walked out. It had only grown deeper, stronger, brighter. The night of the gala, she stood in front of the mirror, smoothing the navy dress over her hips. Simple, elegant, hers. Theo bounced on the bed in his tiny tuxedo, grinning. I look like James Bond. She laughed, the sound light and real. You do, meu agente secreto. He ran over, tugging her hand. Mama, dance with me before we go. She pulled him close, swaying gently to music only they could hear. You're my best dance partner. You know that? I know, he said proudly, resting his head on her shoulder. Papa doesn't dance. Her breath hitched just slightly. No, baby, he doesn't. But you do. Yes, she whispered, kissing his hair. I do. When they walked into the ballroom, heads turned. Whispers followed. Cameras flashed. Isabella didn't flinch. She held Theo's hand tighter and walked forward. Not with arrogance. Not with defiance. With grace. With truth. And when her eyes met Alexander's across the glittering room, when she saw the shock, the guilt, the raw pain in his face, she didn't look away. She smiled. Not for him. For Theo. For herself. For the woman she had become. The music swelled. Theo tugged her hand. Mama, dance with me. She looked down at him. Her heart, her reason, her redemption, and nodded. Always meu amor. And as she stepped onto that dance floor, holding her son close, swaying to a melody only they understood, she felt it. Not victory, not revenge. Peace. The kind that comes when you stop waiting for someone to see your worth. She didn't glance at Alexander, frozen like a statue near the champagne fountain. She didn't acknowledge Livia's glare, venomous and trembling from across the room. She didn't even notice the phones rising, discreetly at first, then brazenly, recording, capturing, devouring the moment like wolves scenting blood. She only felt Theo, his small arms wrapped around her neck, his heartbeat against her collarbone, his giggles vibrating through her chest as she spun him gently, humming that old lullaby, the one she used to sing when he was tiny and the world was still soft. Estralinha, brilha brilha, mostra o caminho pra mim. Her voice was low, meant only for him. But in the hush that had fallen over the gala, it carried. And Alexander heard it. Every syllable, every note. It unraveled him. He stood rooted, fingers clenched around his untouched whiskey glass, knuckles white. The ice had melted. The drink was warm. He didn't care. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't blink, for fear she'd vanish again. Like a dream he wasn't worthy of keeping. Livia stormed toward him, heels clicking like gunshots on marble. Alexander, what are you doing? Everyone is watching. Everyone. He didn't look at her. They should be, he whispered. What? They should be watching her. Watching them. Livia grabbed his arm, nails digging in. You're embarrassing yourself. Go talk to her. Get her to leave. Now. He finally turned to her, and she recoiled. His eyes weren't cold, weren't angry. They were shattered. Why? He asked, voice raw. So I can pretend this didn't happen? So I can pretend I didn't walk away from that? From him. Livia's face twisted. You chose me. You left her. You don't get to stand here like a martyr. I'm not a martyr, he said, voice breaking. I'm a ghost. And she's alive. With him. Without me. Livia opened her mouth to retort. But the music shifted. A new song. Slower. Sweeter. A waltz. And Isabella didn't stop dancing. She adjusted Theo in her arms, kissed his forehead, and kept moving, slow, graceful, unhurried. as if the entire room, the entire city, the entire universe had narrowed to just the two of them. Theo looked up at her, eyes wide with wonder. "Mama, why is everyone so quiet?" She smiled down at him, brushing his hair from his forehead. "Because you're dancing like a prince, meu amor, and princes make the world stop." He beamed. "Can we dance forever?" Her throat tightened. "I wish." And then, as if fate had been waiting for this exact moment, Theo turned his head and saw him. "Papa!" The single word cracked through the silence like thunder. Every head turned, every camera zoomed, every breath stopped. Alexander's name, whispered, gasped, murmured, rippled through the crowd like a wave. Isabella didn't flinch, didn't pull Theo away, didn't shield him. She simply held him tighter, not as a weapon, not as a shield, as a mother, as his anchor. Theo squirmed, reaching out. "Papa, look, I'm dancing." Alexander's legs moved before his mind could catch up. One step, then another, toward them, toward the son he hadn't hugged in 8 months, toward the wife he'd abandoned without a backward glance. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, not out of respect, out of morbid fascination, out of the unspoken thrill of watching a man publicly unravel. He stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the freckles dusting Theo's nose, close enough to smell the strawberry shampoo in his hair, close enough to see the way Isabella's fingers trembled, just slightly against Theo's back. "Hey, buddy," Alexander managed, voice thick with emotion he couldn't name. You look so grown up." Theo grinned. "I am. I'm 5.5. Mama says I'm big now." Alexander's chest ached. "You are. So big." Theo wriggled. "Dance with us, Papa." Alexander looked at Isabella, really looked, for the first time since he walked out. Her eyes were dry, calm, unreadable, but he saw it. The exhaustion, the resilience, the quiet fury buried beneath layers of grace. I don't know how," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Isabella studied him, not with pity, not with scorn, with assessment, as if weighing whether he was worth the risk, whether Theo's fragile heart could survive another disappointment. Then softly, she said, "Then learn," and she turned away, not cruelly, not dramatically, simply. She kept dancing, with Theo, without him. Alexander stood there, exposed, naked, a king stripped of his crown in front of his court. Livia appeared at his side again, face pale with fury. "This is a disaster. We're leaving." He didn't move. "Alexander, I'm not going," he said, eyes still locked on Isabella and Theo. "You're humiliating me." "No," he said, voice low, trembling. "I'm finally seeing what I lost." Livia stared at him, really stared, and for the first time, fear flickered in her eyes, because she realized he wasn't hers anymore. He hadn't been for a long time. He'd been chasing a ghost, the ghost of freedom, of excitement, of escape. But standing here, watching Isabella dance with their son like the world hadn't broken them, he realized the truth. He hadn't been running toward something. He'd been running away. And now he was standing still, and it was killing him. Theo looked back over Isabella's shoulder, waving. "Papa, come on." Alexander took a step forward, then another. Isabella didn't stop dancing, but she didn't pull Theo away either. She let him stand there, let him watch, let him ache, let him remember. The music swelled, the cameras flashed, the crowd held its breath, and Alexander Vance, billionaire, tycoon, master of empires, stood trembling on the edge of a dance floor, begging silently with his eyes for a chance he didn't deserve. One dance, one moment, one chance to hold his son again. Isabella didn't turn, but she didn't say no. And in that silence, hope, fragile, terrifying, alive. Theo reached out again. "Papa, please." Alexander's breath hitched. He took another step, closer, closer. His hand lifted, trembling, toward Theo's outstretched fingers. And just as their fingertips were about to touch, Theo stumbled. His little foot caught on the hem of Isabella's dress. He tripped, fell, and scraped his knee on the marble floor. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Theo's face crumpled. Tears welled. And before Alexander could move, before he could even think, Isabella was on her knees, in the middle of the ballroom, in her elegant gown, surrounded by glittering strangers. She gathered Theo into her arms, murmuring soft words, kissing his scraped knee, wiping his tears with her thumbs. There, meu coração. Shoo. Mama's here. You're okay. You're so brave. Theo buried his face in her neck, sobbing softly. Isabella rocked him gently, humming that lullaby again. Louder now, defiantly tender, as if daring the world to look away. Alexander stood frozen, hands still outstretched, heart in his throat, because in that moment he saw it. The truth, the brutal, beautiful, devastating truth. He didn't know how to be a father. He didn't know how to comfort a scraped knee. He didn't know how to soothe tears with a kiss. He didn't know how to be there, but she did. She always had, and she always would. Even without him, especially without him. Livia tugged his arm. Let's go. Now. He shook her off. His eyes never left Isabella, never left Theo. And as Isabella lifted Theo into her arms, holding him close, whispering promises against his hair, Alexander felt something inside him crack open. Not break, open, white, raw, hungry. For the first time in 8 months, he wanted to learn, not to win her back, not to fix his image, but to be worthy of that lullaby, of that kiss on a scraped knee, of that quiet, unshakable love. He took a step forward, then another, kneeling beside them, not touching, not yet, just there. Isabella didn't look at him, but she didn't move away. And Theo peeked out from her shoulder. Alexander didn't reach out, didn't dare. He just stayed there, present. For the first time in 8 months, truly, fully present. The crowd hadn't moved. No one spoke. No one breathed too loudly. It was as if the entire gala had become a painting, frozen, silent, waiting for the next brushstroke. Livia stood a few feet away, arms crossed, face like stone. Her designer heels tapped impatiently against the floor. Alexander, she hissed, low enough that only he could hear. Get up. This is pathetic. He didn't look at her. His eyes were locked on Theo's scraped knee, red, raw, already beginning to swell. Isabella gently brushed her thumb over it, murmuring words Alexander couldn't hear but knew by heart. She'd whispered them to Theo when he had nightmares, when he scraped his elbow learning to ride a bike, when he cried because Alexander missed his school play. Shoo, meu amor. Mama's here. You're safe. Alexander's chest burned. He remembered the night Theo was born. How Isabella had squeezed his hand so hard he thought his bones would break. How she'd cried when she first held him. How she'd looked up at Alexander with eyes full of awe and whispered, "We made something so beautiful." And now he was watching her hold the broken pieces of what he'd shattered. Theo peeked out from Isabella's shoulder again, eyes wide and wet. "Papa, does it hurt?" Alexander's breath caught. What hurt, buddy?" "My knee." Alexander swallowed hard. Yeah, it probably does." Theo nodded solemnly. "Mama kissed it. Now it's better." Alexander's eyes stung. "She's good at that." Theo grinned, small and wobbly. "The best." Isabella didn't react, didn't smile, didn't look at Alexander. But her arms tightened around Theo, just slightly, as if holding him closer could shield him from the storm swirling around them. Alexander took a shaky breath. Can I see?" Theo looked up at Isabella. "Mama? Can Papa see?" She hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. Alexander saw it, the calculation in her eyes. The war between the woman who still remembered loving him and the mother who would never let him hurt her son again. Then softly, she nodded. Theo turned in her arms, extending his little leg toward Alexander. Alexander leaned forward, heart hammering. He studied the scrape, small but angry, a tiny wound that felt like a canyon between them. "It's not too bad," he said, voice rough. "You're a tough guy, Theo." Theo beamed. "I know." Alexander reached out, slowly, carefully, and brushed his fingertip just above the scrape. Not touching, not yet, just close. Theo didn't flinch. Alexander's throat tightened. "Does it still hurt?" "A little." Alexander looked up at Isabella. Do you have a bandage?" She didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, she reached into her small clutch and pulled out a cartoon character bandage. The kind Theo loved. Dinosaurs, rockets, superheroes. Alexander took it gently, fingers brushing hers for the first time in 8 months. A jolt shot through him. Her skin was warm, familiar, alive. He tore open the bandage with trembling fingers and carefully smoothed it over Theo's knee. "There," he whispered. "All better." Theo wiggled his leg, grinning. "Look, Mama, Papa fixed it." Isabella's lips parted, just slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but she didn't. Instead, she looked at Alexander, really looked, and for the first time he saw it. Not anger, not coldness, pain, raw, unfiltered. Years of lonely nights and unanswered questions and silent tears pressed into the space between them. He wanted to apologize, wanted to beg, wanted to fall to his knees and promise he'd never leave again. But the words stuck in his throat, because what could he possibly say that would undo 8 months of absence? 8 months of missed birthdays, missed bedtimes, missed scraped knees? Nothing. So he stayed silent. And then Theo squirmed. "I want to dance again." Isabella blinked, startled. "Now, meu amor? Your knee?" "I'm okay. Papa fixed it." Alexander's heart swelled. Isabella hesitated, then nodded. "All right, one more dance, but slow." She stood, lifting Theo gently, and stepped back onto the dance floor. Alexander rose with her, and without thinking, without asking, he reached for Theo's other hand. Theo giggled, swinging between them. "Look, Mama, we're dancing together." Isabella didn't pull away. She didn't smile, but she didn't let go either. The three of them moved, slowly, awkwardly, beautifully, in a small circle on the edge of the ballroom. The music had changed again. Something soft, something sweet, something that felt like a second chance. Alexander didn't look at the crowd, didn't care about the cameras, didn't even notice Livia storming out, heels clicking furiously against the marble. All he saw was Theo's smile. All he felt was Isabella's hand, warm, steady, holding their son between them. All he heard was the quiet rhythm of their footsteps, sinking together after so long apart. And for the first time in 8 months, he felt like a father, not a tycoon, not a lover, not a man running from his mistakes. A father. Theo yawned, snuggling against Isabella's shoulder. "Mama, I'm sleepy." She kissed his forehead. "Then let's go home, meu amor." Alexander's chest ached. I'll walk you out." Isabella looked at him, long, searching. "You don't have to." "I want to." She studied him again. Then, softly, "All right." They moved through the crowd, silent, watchful, parting like waves. No one spoke. No one dared. Outside, the night air was cool, crisp. The city glittered around them, indifferent to the quiet revolution happening on the sidewalk. Isabella adjusted Theo in her arms. He was half asleep already, head lolling against her shoulder. Alexander opened the back door of her modest sedan. Not the luxury SUV he'd bought her years ago, but something smaller, practical. Hers. She slid Theo inside, buckling him in with practiced ease. Alexander lingered by the door. "Isabella?" She turned to him, eyes guarded. "Yes." He wanted to say so much. "I'm sorry. I miss you. I don't know how to fix this." But all he managed was, "Thank you for letting me dance with him." She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time something flickered in her eyes. Not forgiveness, not love, but possibility. "Good night, Alexander," she said softly, and then she got in the car, drove away, leaving him standing on the sidewalk, alone, but not empty, not anymore. His hands still smelled like Theo's hair, that faint strawberry shampoo, mixed with the warmth of little boy's sweat and sleep. His fingers still tingled where they'd brushed Isabella's as he took the bandage. His chest still ached with the ghost of Theo's laughter, ringing like bells in the hollow chambers of his soul. He had danced with his son. He had kissed his scraped knee. He had walked them to the car. And for the first time in 8 months, he had been there, not as a visitor, not as a ghost, but as a father. And it terrified him, because now he knew what he'd lost. Not just a wife, not just a home, but moments. Tiny, sacred, irreplaceable moments, the kind that don't make headlines, don't get photographed, don't get celebrated at galas. The kind that build a child's soul. The kind that stitch a family together, thread by quiet thread. And he had missed them, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. And now he wanted them back. All of them, every single one. He didn't go back inside, didn't face the cameras, didn't make his speech. Let Marcus handle it. Let the investors murmur. Let the boardroom wolves circle. None of it mattered. Not anymore. He walked, not toward his penthouse, not toward Livia's apartment, not toward any of the places that used to feel like home. He walked toward memory, past the park where he'd pushed Theo on the swings, once, before a phone call pulled him away, past the ice cream shop where Isabella used to take Theo every Friday while he worked late, again, past the bookstore where she'd bought him his first dinosaur book, and he'd skimmed it for 5 minutes before setting it aside. He walked until his feet ached, until the city lights blurred, until the weight of his regrets pressed so hard against his ribs he thought he might collapse. And then he stopped, in front of her building, not the penthouse, not the marble lobby, not the doorman who used to greet him with reverence. A modest brick apartment complex with flower boxes on the windowsills and a rusted gate that squeaked when you opened it. Her building, their building now. He stared up at the third-floor window. A soft yellow light glowed behind the curtains. Theo's room. He could picture it, the dinosaur sheets, the stuffed T-Rex on the pillow, the nightlight shaped like a rocket ship. And Isabella? She'd be in there now, tucking him in, reading him a story, kissing his forehead, whispering, "Mama's here. You're safe." Alexander's throat tightened. He wanted to go up, wanted to knock, wanted to beg. Not for forgiveness, not for her, not yet, but for access. For time, for scraps, for a chance to earn back the right to be in that room. But he didn't, because he knew she wouldn't let him in. Not tonight, maybe not ever. And he didn't blame her. So he stood there, in the shadows, watching the light, listening to the silence. And for the first time in 8 months he prayed, not to God, not to fate, to her. Please, let me try, let me be better, let me be there. Not for me, for him, for Theo, please. The next morning he woke in his penthouse, alone. Livia hadn't come home. Good. He didn't shower, didn't shave, didn't put on one of his custom suits. He pulled on jeans, a sweater, sneakers, and he drove, not to the office, not to the gym, not to his lawyers, to a toy store, the kind with bright colors and squeaky floors and overwhelmed parents clutching coffee cups. The kind Isabella used to take Theo to on rainy Saturdays, while he was in meetings. He wandered the aisles, lost. Too many choices, too many memories. He picked up a dinosaur puzzle, the kind Theo loved. Put it down. Picked up a storybook, the little engine that could. Put it down. Picked up a stuffed T-Rex, identical to the one on Theo's bed. Held it, and didn't put it down. He bought it, and a box of bandages, cartoon characters, dinosaurs, rockets, superheroes, and a bottle of strawberry shampoo, and a pack of blueberry pancakes, frozen, the kind Isabella used to make from scratch. He didn't know why, didn't have a plan, just wanted to have something to give, something to say, "I remember, I'm trying, I'm here." He drove to her building again, park across the street, waited, watched. At 8:15 a.m., she emerged, Theo's hand in hers. backpack bouncing against his shoulders, lunchbox clutched in his other hand. She looked tired, beautiful, real. Alexander's breath caught. He wanted to get out of the car, wanted to run across the street, wanted to say, "Good morning. Can I walk him to school? Just today? Please." But he didn't, because he saw it. The way she looked around, subtly, instinctively, as if checking for paparazzi. For him, the way she tightened her grip on Theo's hand, the way she quickened her steps, not out of fear but out of protection. She was shielding him from the world, from the cameras, from him. Alexander's chest ached. He followed them slowly from a distance as they walked to the school, watched as she knelt to adjust Theo's backpack, watched as she kissed his cheek, watched as Theo ran inside, waving over his shoulder, watched as she stood there, just for a moment, shoulders slumping, hand pressed to her chest, as if holding herself together. And then she turned and saw him. Alexander froze. She didn't look angry, didn't look surprised, just tired. She walked toward his car, stopped a few feet away, leaned down, peering through the window. "You're stalking us now?" she asked, voice low, steady. Alexander swallowed. "No, I just wanted to see him, to make sure he was okay. He's fine. He's always fine, because I make sure of it." Alexander nodded. "I know. I saw. Last night. You were amazing. With his knee, with the dance, with everything." She didn't respond, just looked at him, long, searching. Then, quietly, "Why are you here, Alexander?" He hesitated. Then, softly, "I bought him a T-Rex, the same one he has, in case he loses his." She blinked. "You remembered." "I remember everything." Her eyes softened just slightly. "Leave it at the front desk. I'll get it later." Alexander nodded. "Okay." She turned to leave, then stopped, looked back. "And Alexander?" "Yes. Don't follow us again. Not to school. Not to the park. Not anywhere. If you want to see him, ask me. First. Always." Alexander's throat tightened. "I will." She studied him one last time, then walked away, leaving him sitting in his car, alone, but not empty, not anymore, because for the first time in 8 months, she had given him a rule, a boundary, a chance, and he would follow it, every single one, no matter how long it took, no matter how hard it was. He would earn his way back, not to the park where Theo chased pigeons with shrieks of delight, tiny sneakers slapping against pavement. Alexander kept his word. For 3 days, 3 long, aching, hollow days, he sat in his penthouse, the one that used to echo with Theo's laughter, with Isabella's humming, with the clink of wine glasses and the rustle of bedtime stories, and stared at the walls like they might whisper back the life he'd thrown away. He didn't call, didn't text, didn't send flowers or gifts or grand gestures, just waited, watched, prayed, and on the 4th morning, gray skies, drizzle clinging to the windows like tears, he picked up his phone, not to call her, to ask. His thumb hovered over her contact. Isabella, not ex-wife, not Theo's mom, just Isabella, the name he used to whisper against her skin, the name he used to shout across crowded rooms when he wanted her attention, the name he hadn't spoken out loud in 8 months. He typed slowly, carefully, like each letter was a step across broken glass. "Isabella, I know you said not to follow. I haven't. Promise. I miss him. I miss seeing him, even from far away. Can I take him to the park this Saturday? Just for an hour. I'll bring snacks. I'll bring his T-Rex. I'll bring Band-Aids. I'll bring anything you want. I want to be with him. Please." He stared at the message, deleted it, retyped it, deleted it again, added, "I'll wait for your answer, however long it takes." Sent it, and then he threw his phone across the room, not out of anger, out of fear, because now he had asked, and now he had to wait, and waiting, for the first time in his life, felt like dying. The hours crawled. He paced. He showered. He shaved. He put on the sweater Theo liked, the blue one with the dinosaur on the chest. He rehearsed what he'd say if she said yes, what he'd do if she said no, what he'd feel if she didn't answer at all. At 3:17 p.m., his phone buzzed. He lunged for it, fumbled, dropped it, picked it up with trembling hands. One new message. From Isabella. His heart stopped. Park. Saturday. 10 a.m. Bring the T-Rex. And Band-Aids. And be on time. Don't be late. Not even by a minute. He read it. Reread it. Read it again. And then he laughed. A real, raw, tear-choked laugh. She said yes. She said yes. He pressed the phone to his chest. Eyes squeezed shut. Breathing like he'd just surfaced from drowning. She said yes. Saturday morning dawned bright and crisp. The kind of day that smelled like grass and possibility. Alexander arrived at the park at 9:45 a.m. Not 10. Not 9:59. 9:45. Early. Nervous. Hopeful. He sat on a bench near the swings. T-Rex tucked under one arm. Backpack full of Band-Aids, juice boxes, and blueberry pancakes. Warmed, just how Theo liked them. Slung over his shoulder. He watched the other parents. The dads tossing balls. The moms braiding hair. The toddlers wobbling on tricycles. He felt like an imposter. Like a stranger in a world he didn't deserve to be part of. At 9:58 a.m., he saw them. Isabella. Theo. Walking hand in hand down the path. Theo skipping. Isabella smiling down at him. That soft, private smile Alexander used to think was only for him. His breath caught. They stopped a few feet away. Theo's eyes lit up. Papa! He broke into a run. Alexander stood, heart hammering, and opened his arms. Theo crashed into him, small and warm and real, smelling like sunshine and strawberry shampoo and childhood. Alexander held him, tight, trembling, afraid to let go. Hey, buddy, he whispered, voice thick. You look so big. Theo pulled back, grinning. I missed you. Alexander's throat tightened. I missed you too. So much. Isabella stood a few feet away, arms crossed, watching. Not cold, not warm, assessing. Alexander met her gaze. Thank you for letting me. She nodded. 1 hour. Don't be late bringing him back. I won't. She turned to Theo. Be good. Listen to Papa. And if you need me, just yell. Theo nodded seriously. I will, Mama. She hesitated. Then softly, have fun. And she walked away. Not far. Just to a bench under a tree. Watching. Waiting. Protecting. Alexander took Theo's hand. Ready to play, buddy? Theo grinned. Race you to the slide. And he took off. Alexander ran after him. Not fast enough to win, not slow enough to lose. Letting Theo shriek with delight as he beat his dad. They climbed the jungle gym, swung on the swings, fed ducks, even though the sign said not to, ate pancakes on a picnic blanket. And when Theo scraped his elbow just a little, Alexander didn't panic. He knelt, opened the backpack, pulled out a rocket ship Band-Aid, and carefully, gently, smoothed it over the scrape. Theo beamed. Look, Papa, you did it just like Mama. Alexander's eyes stung. I'm learning. Theo hugged him. You're the best, Papa. Alexander held him, tight, trembling, heart full to bursting. And for the first time in 8 months, he felt like a father. Not because he bought the right toy, not because he showed up, but because he stayed, because he knelt, because he kissed the scrape, because he let Theo win the race, because he was there. And when the hour was up, when Isabella walked over, smiling softly at Theo's grass-stained knees and juice-stained shirt, Alexander stood, heart pounding. He was perfect, he said, voice rough. So brave, so funny, so him. Isabella nodded. He's always been. Alexander hesitated. Then softly, Can I do this again? Next Saturday. She studied him. Then quietly, if you're on time. Alexander's chest swelled. I will be. She took Theo's hand. Theo hugged Alexander, quick, tight, sticky with juice. Bye, Papa. See you next week. Alexander watched them walk away. Watched Isabella glance back, just once. Watched her smile, small but real. And for the first time in 8 months, he didn't feel empty. He felt hopeful. Because now he had a routine. Ritual. No, these Saturdays were raw, real. Rituals carved in scraped knees and sticky fingers and whispered promises kept. Alexander arrived early, always. 9:45 a.m., same bench, same backpack, same dinosaur tucked under his arm like a talisman. He watched the path, heart hammering, until he saw them. Isabella's hand in Theo's, Theo skipping, Isabella smiling down at him like he was the only star in her sky. And every time, every single time, when Theo broke into a run, shouting "Papa!" and crashed into his arms, Alexander felt it. The crack in his armor, the thaw in his chest, the quiet, terrifying truth. He was falling back in love. Not with Isabella, not yet, not like that, but with them, with the way Theo's laughter echoed across the playground, with the way Isabella lingered just far enough to give them space, but close enough to catch Theo if he fell, with the way she'd started bringing coffee for him, black, no sugar, just how he liked it, and leave it on the bench beside him without a word, with the way she'd stopped watching him like he was a threat, and started watching him like maybe he was becoming someone she could trust. But trust, real trust, is slow, fragile, earned in drops, not floods. And Alexander knew it, so he didn't push, didn't ask for more time, didn't ask to come to dinner, didn't ask to tuck Theo in at night. He just showed up, every Saturday, on time, with band-aids, with snacks, with stories, with presents. And slowly, so slowly he almost didn't notice, things began to shift. Theo started asking for him during the week. "Mama, when is Papa coming again? Mama, can Papa come to my soccer game? Mama, I drew a picture for Papa. Can we give it to him Saturday?" Isabella never said no, never said yes either, just nodded, and tucked the drawings into her purse. And on Saturdays, Alexander would find them, tucked into the backpack, or slipped into his coat pocket, or taped to the T-Rex's belly. A rocket ship, a dinosaur wearing a crown, a stick-figure family, Mama, Theo, and Papa. Always Papa, always there, always part of the picture. Then one Saturday, everything changed. It was raining, not a drizzle, not a shower, a downpour, the kind that turns sidewalks into rivers and swings into waterfalls. Alexander arrived at 9:45 a.m. anyway, soaked, shivering, holding the T-Rex over his head like an umbrella. He waited and waited. No Isabella, no Theo. His heart sank. She changed her mind. She saw the rain. She decided it wasn't worth it. She decided, "I'm not worth it." He turned to leave, shoulders slumped, heart heavy. And then headlights. Her car pulled up to the curb. The door opened. Theo tumbled out. Raincoat flapping, boots splashing, face lit up like Christmas. "Papa!" He ran. Straight into the puddle, straight into Alexander's arms, straight into the storm. Alexander caught him, laughing, spinning, soaked to the bone, and held him tight. "You came!" Theo shouted over the rain. "Even in the rain!" Alexander's throat tightened. "I told you I would." Isabella stepped out of the car, umbrella in hand, smile soft. "You're both insane," she called, walking toward them. Alexander grinned. "Probably." She stopped in front of them, shaking her head. "You're drenched." "So are you," he said, nodding at her rain-spattered coat. She didn't answer, just looked at him, really looked. And for the first time, the very first time, he saw it. Not assessment, not caution, affection, faint, fleeting, but real. She reached into her bag and pulled out 2 thermoses. "Hot chocolate," she said, handing one to Alexander. "Theo's favorite, with extra marshmallows." Alexander took it, fingers brushing hers, warm despite the cold. "Thank you." She nodded. "Don't stand in the rain. There's a pavilion over there." And she walked ahead, not away, leading. Alexander followed, Theo's hand in his, thermos warming his palm. heart pounding like a drum. They sat under the pavilion, dry, warm, safe, sipping hot chocolate, watching the rain fall. Theo chattered about school, about dinosaurs, about the puddle he wanted to jump in. Alexander listened, really listened, laughing at the right moments, asking questions, remembering details. And Isabella? She watched them, quietly, softly, smiling. Not the polite smile, not the guarded smile, the real one, the one that reached her eyes, the one that used to melt him. And when Theo fell asleep, head on Alexander's shoulder, sticky fingers curled around his shirt, Isabella didn't wake him. She just let him sleep, let Alexander hold him, let the moment stretch, quiet, sacred, theirs. And then, softly, she said, "You're good with him." Alexander's breath caught. "I'm trying. You're different." He looked at her. "Is that a good thing?" She hesitated. Then, quietly, "It's a start." And for the first time in 8 months, he didn't feel like a ghost. He felt like a father, partner, a man, not a tycoon, not a mistake, not a regret, but a man who was finally, slowly, becoming someone worth loving. Theo slept against his chest, warm, heavy, trusting, tiny breaths puffing against the damp fabric of his shirt. The scent of rain, wet grass, and childhood clung to them both, wrapping them in something fragile and sacred. Isabella sat across from them on the wooden bench, knees drawn up, fingers curled around her thermos, eyes fixed on the gray horizon. But she wasn't watching the storm. She was watching him, watching the way Alexander's hand rested on Theo's back, steady, protective, reverent, watching the way his thumb brushed absently over the dinosaur patch on Theo's raincoat, the one she had sewn on after he ripped it climbing the monkey bars, watching the way his eyes, once so cold, so distant, so full of restless hunger, now held only quiet awe, and something else, something deeper, regret. Not the performative kind, the kind that comes with apologies and flowers and Instagram captions. The real kind, the kind that carves hollows in your chest. The kind that wakes you at 3 a.m., whispering, "What if you'd stayed? What if you'd chosen them?" She saw it, and for the first time, she didn't look away. Theo stirred. Small, sleepy sounds, fingers flexing against Alexander's shirt. Papa. "I'm here, buddy." Theo blinked up at him, eyes still fogged with sleep. "Are we home?" Alexander smiled, soft, tender. "Not yet, but we will be soon." Theo yawned, snuggling closer. "Can you carry me?" "Always." Isabella stood, slow, graceful, and reached for her umbrella. "Let's get him to the car. He'll catch a cold." Alexander rose carefully, cradling Theo against his chest like he was made of glass, like he was the most precious thing in the world, because he was. They walked in silence, the three of them. Beneath the umbrella Isabella held just slightly tilted toward Alexander, shielding him from the rain even as she pretended not to. The parking lot was empty, quiet, peaceful. Alexander opened the back door of her car, gently buckling Theo in, tucking the T-Rex under his arm, brushing a kiss against his forehead. "Sleep, meu dinosauro," he whispered. Theo smiled sleepily. "Love you, Papa." Alexander's throat tightened. "Love you more, buddy." He closed the door softly, turned, and found Isabella watching him. Not with pity, not with distance, with wonder, like she was seeing him for the first time. And maybe she was. They stood there, inches apart, rain whispering around them, the city humming in the distance. And for the first time in 8 months, neither of them rushed to fill the silence. Stretched, warm, heavy, alive. And then, quietly, she said, "You remember the night he was born?" Alexander's breath caught. He nodded. Of course he remembered. How could he forget? The fluorescent lights of the hospital room. The way Isabella's hand had crushed his, her knuckles white, her face streaked with sweat and tears and strength. The way she'd screamed, not in pain, but in power, as Theo entered the world. The way she'd looked up at him afterward, exhausted, radiant, trembling, and whispered, We made something so beautiful. He'd kissed her forehead, promised her the world, and then he'd spent the next 5 years missing bedtimes, missing scraped knees, missing them. I remember, he said, voice rough. She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time her eyes were wet. Do you remember what you said to me? Right after they put him in my arms. Alexander swallowed. I told you I'd never leave you, that I'd always be there. For both of you. She nodded, slow, aching. You said, I'll never let anything come between us. Not work, not money, not anything. Her voice broke just slightly. And then you did. Alexander's chest caved in. He didn't look away, didn't make excuses, just let the truth hang between them, raw, ugly. I did, he whispered, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it right. She studied him, long searching. Then softly, why now? Why this? After everything? He didn't answer right away, didn't give her the polished speech, didn't tell her about the gala, the dance floor, the way seeing her hold Theo had shattered him. He told her the truth. The first time I held him, I was terrified, not of being a father, of failing him. So I ran, into work, into deals, into her. I thought if I built enough towers, money, power, I could outrun the fear. But all I did was leave him behind. He looked at her, eyes burning. And then, I saw you, at the gala, dancing with him, like the world hadn't broken you, like you were still whole, still his. And I realized, I didn't lose you because I fell out of love. I lost you because I was too scared to be the man you needed me to be. Her breath hitched. And now, she whispered, now? He stepped closer, not touching, not yet, just close. Now I'm not scared anymore. Now I know what matters. And I'll spend every day proving it. Not to you, not even to him, to myself. Because I don't deserve either of you, but I want to be worthy of you. However long it takes. She didn't speak, didn't move, just looked at him. And then slowly she reached out, not to touch his face, not to take his hand. She brushed her fingers over the damp sleeve of his coat, right where Theo's head had rested. You're cold, she said softly. He nodded. Yeah. She stepped back, just slightly. Get in the car. I'll drive you home. Alexander's heart stuttered. You don't have to. I know, she said, opening the passenger door. Get in. He did. Not because he wanted to, because he needed to, because for the first time in 8 months, she was letting him back in. Not all the way, not yet, but enough. The drive was quiet. Theo slept in the back. Rain tapped against the windows. Isabella drove with one hand, the other resting lightly on the wheel, calm, steady, present. Alexander didn't speak, didn't dare break the spell. He just watched her, the curve of her neck, the way her hair curled slightly at the nape, the freckle on her wrist he used to kiss before meetings, the woman he'd almost lost, the woman who was still, somehow, giving him a chance. And when she pulled up to his penthouse, sleek, cold, empty, she didn't turn off the engine, didn't look at him, just said, next Saturday, 9:45. Don't be late. He nodded. I won't. He reached for the door, paused, looked back at her. Isabella? She turned slowly, eyes guarded, hopeful, waiting. He didn't say, I'm sorry. Didn't say, I love you. Didn't say anything she wasn't ready to hear. He said softly, sincerely, thank you for today, for him, for letting me be part of his life. She studied him, then quietly, you're his father, Alexander. You always were. You just forgot. And with that, she drove away, leaving him standing in the rain, alone, but not empty. He arrived at the park at 9:30 a.m., 15 minutes early. He paced. Saturday. Stood. Paced again. Checked his phone. No messages. No calls. Just silence. And then footsteps. Light. Familiar. He turned. And there she was. Isabella. Alone. No Theo. Alexander's stomach dropped. Something's wrong. He ran toward her. Not fast, not frantic, but urgent. Isabella? Where's Theo? Is he okay? She held up a hand, calm, steady. He's fine. He's with my sister. She's taking him to the Children's Museum today. Alexander blinked. Oh, okay. I thought. I know what you thought, she said softly. And I'm sorry. I should have texted. He nodded, trying to hide the disappointment clawing at his chest. It's okay. I'll see him next week. She didn't move, didn't walk away, just looked at him. And for the first time, he saw it. Not hesitation, purpose. I didn't cancel today, she said quietly. I just changed the plan. Alexander's breath caught. What do you mean? She took a step closer. I want to talk. Just us. No Theo. No band-aids. No distractions. Just us. Alexander's pulse roared in his ears. This wasn't part of the routine. This wasn't safe. This was dangerous. Because just us meant memories. Meant pain. Meant the past. Raw. Unhealed. Waiting to bleed. He swallowed. Okay. She gestured to the bench. Sit. He did. She sat beside him, not touching but close. Close enough that he could smell her perfume. Vanilla and rain, unchanged after all these years. Close enough that he could see the faint scar on her thumb from when she'd cut herself cooking his favorite pasta. Close enough that he could feel the weight of everything unsaid between them. And then, softly, she said, Why did you really leave? Alexander's breath hitched. Not who is she? Not do you still love her? Not do you regret it? Why did you really leave? He looked down at his hands. The hands that had signed divorce papers, that had packed a suitcase, that had held other women, that had failed to hold his son when it mattered. I told you, he whispered. I was scared. I didn't know how to be a father. I thought if I ran, the fear would go away. She nodded, slow, thoughtful. And Livia? He flinched, didn't answer right away. Then quietly, she was easy. No expectations, no responsibility, just fun, excitement, escape. Isabella's voice was soft, not angry, not bitter, just sad. And what about me? What did I become to you? Alexander's throat tightened. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time he didn't see the woman he'd left. He saw the woman he'd failed. You became duty, he admitted, voice breaking. Routine, safety, and I mistook that for boredom. I thought love was supposed to feel like fireworks, like adrenaline, like her. But I was wrong. He turned to her, eyes burning. Love isn't fireworks, Isabella. There's band-aids on scraped knees. There's pancakes on rainy mornings. There's showing up even when you're scared. Even when you don't know how. That's what you gave me. And I threw it away because I was too stupid to see it. She didn't speak, didn't move, just let the silence hold them. And then, quietly, do you still see me as duty? Alexander's breath caught. He reached out, slowly, carefully, and brushed his fingers over hers. Not holding, not claiming, just touching. No, he whispered. I see you as my second chance, my redemption, my home. She didn't pull away, didn't speak, just let his fingers rest against hers. And for the first time in 8 months, he didn't feel like a ghost. He felt seen. They sat like that for a long time, hands almost touching, hearts wide open, the past breathing between them like a living thing. And then, softly, she said, I'm not ready to forgive you. Alexander nodded. I know. I'm not ready to trust you. I know. I'm not ready to let you back into my life. Not like that. I know. She looked at him, eyes wet, voice trembling. But I'm ready to try. For him. For Theo. Because he deserves a father who shows up. Even if I'm still scared. Alexander's chest ached. He didn't promise her forever. Didn't promise her love. Didn't promise her anything she wasn't ready to hear. He just nodded. Then I'll keep showing up. However long it takes. However hard it is. For him. For you. For me. She studied him, long searching. Then, quietly, next Saturday, Bring the T-Rex and Band-Aids and be on time. He smiled small, tender. I will. She stood. He stood with her. And for the first time, she didn't walk away. She turned to him, reached up, and brushed her fingers over his cheek. Just once. Soft, brief, like a whisper. Thank you, she whispered, for remembering. And then she walked away, leaving him standing there, alone, but not empty, not anymore, because for the first time in 8 months, Theo ran to him, always, laughing, shouting, crashing into his arms like he'd been waiting all week just for this. Isabella lingered, always, close enough to catch him if he fell, far enough to let them breathe. But something had shifted, not in Theo, in her, in the way she smiled, not just at Theo, but at him, in the way she started bringing 2 thermoses, one for Theo, one for Alexander, in the way she'd sit beside him on the bench now, not across from him, not watching from a distance, beside him, shoulders almost touching, hands brushing as they passed juice boxes, laughter mingling as Theo told his wild, exaggerated stories. It was small, subtle, fragile, but it was there. And Alexander, he didn't push, didn't rush, didn't ask for more. He just showed up, every Saturday, on time, with Band-Aids, with patience, with presence. And slowly, so slowly he almost didn't notice, the walls between them began to crumble. Then one Saturday everything changed. It was warm, sunny, the kind of day that smelled like grass and possibility. Theo was racing across the playground, sneakers slapping against pavement, laughter ringing like bells, when he tripped, hard, on the edge of the slide. He fell, scraped both knees, and screamed, not a little cry, a wail. Alexander was on his feet before Theo hit the ground. He ran, heart hammering, breath ragged, and dropped to his knees beside him. It's okay, buddy. I've got you. I'm here. Theo sobbed, face red, tears streaming, tiny hands clutching at Alexander's shirt. It hurts, Papa. I know. Let me see. Alexander gently lifted Theo's pant leg. Both knees were scraped, bleeding, angry red. He reached for the backpack, hands trembling, and pulled out the Band-Aids. Rocket ships, dinosaurs, superheroes. Theo hiccuped. Mama always kisses it first. Alexander's throat tightened. He looked up, searching for Isabella. She was already there, kneeling beside them. Without a word, she leaned down and kissed each scraped knee, soft, tender, reverent. Theo's sobs slowed. Alexander watched her, heart pounding, chest aching, as she murmured soft words against his skin. Shoo, meu amor. Mama's here. You're safe. And then she looked at Alexander, not with pity, not with distance, with invitation. Your turn, she whispered. Alexander's breath caught. He took a Band-Aids, a dinosaur, and carefully, gently, smoothed it over Theo's knee. Theo sniffled. You did it good, Papa. Alexander's eyes stung. Thanks, buddy. Isabella smiled, small, soft, real. And then she reached out, not to Theo, to him. She brushed her fingers over his wrist. Just once. Warm, brief, like a whisper. You're learning, she said softly. Alexander's chest swelled. He didn't speak, didn't move, just let her touch linger. And for the first time in 8 months, he didn't feel like a ghost. He felt alive. They sat on the bench afterward, Theo between them, knees bandaged, sipping juice, chattering about the slide and the fall and the Band-Aids and the kisses. Isabella leaned back, relaxed, calm, present. Alexander watched her, heart pounding, chest aching, and for the first time he let himself hope, not for her, not yet, but for them, for this, for the Saturdays, for the Band-Aids, for the kisses on scraped knees, for the quiet, sacred moments that were stitching them back together, one thread at a time. And then softly, she said, You're good with him. Alexander's breath caught. I'm trying. She nodded. You're different. He looked at her. Is that a good thing? She hesitated. Then quietly, It's a start. And for the first time in 8 months, he didn't feel like a mistake. He felt like a man, but it captured everything. Alexander on his knees in the grass. Suit pants ruined, hair messy, face streaked with sweat and worry. Gently smoothing a dinosaur band-aid over Theo's scraped knee. Isabella beside him, calm, steady, kissing the other knee, murmuring soft words, her fingers brushing Alexander's wrist in quiet solidarity. Theo, sniffling, then smiling, then throwing his arms around his father's neck. And then the moment that broke the internet. Alexander, eyes wet, voice trembling, whispering, "You're so brave, buddy. I'm so proud of you." Theo, grinning through tears, whispering back, "I knew you'd fix it, Papa. That was it. No music, no filter, no script, just truth. Raw, real, beautiful." Alexander didn't know about it at first. He was too busy carrying a sleepy Theo back to the car, too busy buckling him in, too busy pressing a kiss to his forehead and whispering, "Sleep, meu dinosauro." He didn't see the phones, didn't hear the whispers, didn't feel the weight of 1,000 eyes watching him become a father. Not in boardrooms or galas, but in band-aids and scraped knees, and whispered, "I'm proud of yous." He only found out when his phone started blowing up. Texts, calls, notifications. "Dude, is this you? Bro, you're trending. Alexander, call me SAP." The board is freaking out. He ignored them all except one. From Marcus, his CFO, his oldest friend, the man who'd stood beside him at every deal, every launch, every victory. "Alex, you need to see this. Now." Attached was the video. Alexander watched it. Once, twice, 3 times, and each time his chest ached. Not with pride, with pain, because for the first time he saw himself. Not as the tycoon, not as the playboy, not as the man who left, but as the father, the man who knelt, who kissed scraped knees, who whispered, "I'm proud of you," who let his son cry in his arms, who didn't run, who stayed. And it terrified him, because now the world saw it too. The fallout was immediate. Board meetings were rescheduled. Investors called, not to talk about towers or profits, but about the video. "Is this a PR stunt, Alexander? Are you trying to soften your image? Who gave permission to film this?" He didn't answer, didn't explain, didn't care, because for the first time in his life, the money didn't matter, the power didn't matter, the image didn't matter. Only Theo mattered. Only Isabella mattered. Only this mattered. But Isabella? She didn't know. Not at first. She was too busy tucking Theo into bed, too busy humming lullabies, too busy smiling softly as he whispered, "Mama, Papa fixed my knees. He did it just like you." She didn't see the texts, didn't hear the buzz, didn't feel the weight of the world watching her become a mother. Not in galas or galleries, but in kisses and band-aids, and whispered, "You're safe, meu amor." She only found out when her phone rang. Her sister, "Bella, you need to see this." Attached was the video. Isabella watched it. Once, twice, 3 times, and each time her chest ached. Not with anger, not with fear, with wonder, because for the first time, she saw them, not as broken pieces, not as a failed marriage, not as a mistake, but as a family, a real, messy, beautiful family. And it terrified her, because now the world saw it too. They met at the park the next Saturday early, before Theo woke. No backpack, no T-Rex, no band-aids, just them. Alexander arrived first, pacing, heart pounding, phone buzzing with unread messages. Isabella arrived second, calm, steady, eyes red-rimmed but dry. They stood there, inches apart, the morning sun warm on their skin, the silence heavy between them. And then, quietly, she said, "You didn't tell me." Alexander shook his head. "I didn't know. Not until after." She studied him, long searching. "Do you regret it?" He looked at her, eyes burning. "Regret what?" Kneeling in the grass, fixing his knee, Telling him I'm proud of him? No, never. She nodded, slow, thoughtful. They're calling you the Band-Aid billionaire. He laughed, soft, bitter. I don't care what they call me. She stepped closer. But you should, because now they see you, the real you, not the tycoon, not the playboy, the father. And it's beautiful. Alexander's throat tightened. Is that what you see? She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time her eyes were wet. Yes, she whispered, that's what I see. And for the first time in 8 months, he didn't feel like a ghost. He felt seen. They didn't talk about the video after that. Didn't talk about the press. Didn't talk about the board. They just showed up. Every Saturday. On time. With band-aids. With patience. With presence. And slowly, so slowly they almost didn't notice, the world stopped watching. Stopped caring. Stopped judging. Because for the first time, Isabella sat on the couch. Sketchbook open. Pencil moving in slow, gentle strokes. She was drawing Theo. Not as he was now, but as he'd been that afternoon at the park. Scraped knees, tear-streaked cheeks, arms wrapped around Alexander's neck. She didn't realize she was crying until the pencil smudged. She set it down, wiped her eyes, and just sat, letting the silence hold her, letting the storm outside match the one inside her chest. Because she was happy, and that terrified her. Happy in the quiet mornings with Theo. Happy in the Saturdays with Alexander, real, present, trying. Happy in the way he looked at her now. Not with hunger, not with guilt, but with reverence. And that was dangerous. Because happiness in her experience was fragile, temporary, a thing the universe loved to snatch away. She stood, restless, and walked to the window, watched the rain, listened to the thunder, and then the doorbell rang. Once, twice, 3 times, hard, insistent, desperate. Her heart stopped. No one came here, not this late, not in this storm. She crept to the door, peered through the peephole, and her breath caught. Alexander, soaked, shivering, eyes wild, hair plastered to his forehead, suit ruined. He looked broken. She opened the door just a crack. Alexander, what are you doing here? He didn't speak, didn't move, just looked at her. Eyes red-rimmed, cheeks wet, not from rain, from tears. I need to see him, he whispered, voice raw. Please, just let me see him. Isabella's chest tightened. He's asleep. I know. I need to see him. To know he's okay. To know you're okay. She studied him, long searching. And then, softly, what happened? He shook his head, not answering. Not yet. Just pleading. Please. She hesitated. Then slowly opened the door. He stumbled inside, dripping, shaking, shattered. She grabbed a towel wordlessly and handed it to him. He didn't take it, just stood there, staring down the hallway, toward Theo's room. Is he? He whispered. Sleeping, she said softly. Come on. She led him down the hall. Quiet, careful, heart pounding. Stopped outside Theo's door. Cracked it open just enough for him to see. Theo was curled on his side, one hand clutching the T-Rex, the other flung out like he was reaching for someone. Alexander's breath hitched. He stepped closer, silent, reverent, and knelt beside the bed. Didn't touch, didn't speak, just watched. Watched his son breathe, watched his chest rise and fall, watched the way his eyelashes fluttered, dreaming, maybe, of dinosaurs and band-aids and Saturday mornings. And then, quietly, he whispered, I'm here, buddy. I'm not going anywhere. Isabella's throat tightened. She didn't move, didn't speak. Just let him kneel there. Let him be a father. Let him be present. And then, softly, she said, What happened, Alexander? He didn't turn, didn't look at her, just whispered. Livia left. Isabella's breath caught. She packed her things, said I was never really hers, that I was always yours, even when I didn't know it. His voice broke. She was right. He finally turned, eyes wet, chest heaving. I thought I was building something with her. Something new. Something exciting. But all I was doing was running. From you. From him. From me. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time she saw it. Not regret. Not guilt. Clarity. I don't want her, he whispered. I don't want the parties, the towers, the money. I want this. I want you. I want him. I want Saturday mornings and scraped knees and bedtime stories and you. Isabella's chest ached. She didn't speak, didn't move, just let the silence hold them. And then, quietly, you can't have me, Alexander. Not like that. Not yet. He nodded, slow, aching. I know. I'm not ready to forgive you. I know. I'm not ready to trust you. I know. She stepped closer, heart pounding, eyes burning. But I'm ready to try. For him. For Theo. Because he deserves a father who shows up. Even if I'm still scared. Alexander's breath caught. He didn't promise her forever. Didn't promise her love. Didn't promise her anything she wasn't ready to hear. He just nodded. Then I'll keep showing up. However long it takes. However hard it is. For him. For you. For me. She studied him, long searching. Then quietly, stay tonight. On the couch. Don't wake him. Don't touch anything. Just be here. He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. Thank you. She turned to leave, paused, looked back. And Alexander? Yes. Don't leave again. He met her gaze, eyes burning, voice trembling. I won't. Not ever again. And for the first time in 8 months, he didn't feel like a ghost. Too quiet. No Theo. No Isabella. Just silence. And for one terrifying second, he thought they left. Without me. Again. He stumbled to his feet. Barefoot. Still in yesterday's ruined suit. Hair wild, and crept down the hall. Stopped outside Theo's door. Cracked it open. And let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Theo was still there. Curled under his dinosaur blanket. One arm flung out. Mouth slightly open. Snoring softly. Alive. Safe. Alexander leaned against the doorframe. Heart swelling. Chest aching. And just watched. Watched his son breathe. Watched the rise and fall of his tiny chest. Watched the way his eyelashes fluttered, dreaming, maybe, of rockets and band-aids and Saturday mornings. And then, quietly, he whispered, I'm here, buddy. I'm not going anywhere. He didn't move, didn't touch, didn't wake him, just stayed, present. Father. He found Isabella in the kitchen. Back to him, pouring coffee, humming softly under her breath. She didn't turn, didn't speak, just handed him a mug. Black, no sugar, just how he liked it. He took it, fingers brushing hers, warm, familiar, real. Thank you, he whispered. She nodded, still not looking at him. Theo's still asleep. You can stay until he wakes up. Then you should go. Alexander's chest tightened. I understand. She finally turned. Eyes guarded, voice soft. This doesn't mean anything, Alexander. Not yet. Not like that. I know. I'm not ready to forgive you. I know. I'm not ready to trust you. I know. She stepped closer. Heart pounding, eyes burning. But I'm ready to try. For him. For Theo. Because he deserves a father who shows up. Even if I'm still scared. Alexander's breath caught. He didn't promise her forever. Didn't promise her love. Didn't promise her anything she wasn't ready to hear. He just nodded. Then I'll keep showing up. However long it takes. However hard it is. For him. For you. For me. She studied him, long searching. Then quietly, sit. Drink your coffee. Before it gets cold. He did. Not because he wanted to. Because he needed to. Because for the first time in 8 months, she was letting him back in. Not all the way. Not yet. But enough. The days that followed were fragile. Beautiful. Terrifying. Alexander showed up. Not just on Saturdays, but on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, with band-aids, with snacks, with storybooks, with presents. He didn't push, didn't rush, didn't ask for more. He just showed up. And slowly, so slowly they almost didn't notice, the walls between them began to crumble. Isabella started letting him tuck Theo in at night, started letting him read bedtime stories, started letting him sit beside her on the couch, shoulders almost touching, hands brushing as they passed juice boxes, laughter mingling as Theo told his wild, exaggerated stories. It was small, subtle, fragile, but it was there. And Alexander, he didn't push, didn't rush, didn't ask for more. He just showed up, every day, on time, with band-aids, with patience, with presence. And slowly, so slowly he almost didn't notice, the world stopped watching, stopped caring, stopped judging, because for the first time, they weren't a spectacle, they were a family, and that was everything. But the world outside didn't stop. The board called again and again and again. Alexander, we need you in the office. The Vance Tower launch is in 2 weeks. You can't miss this. Are you trying to ruin your reputation? He ignored them all except one, from Marcus, his CFO, his oldest friend, the man who'd stood beside him at every deal, every launch, every victory. Alex, you need to see this. Now, attached was a photo. Livia, on a beach, laughing, arm in arm with a man Alexander didn't recognize. Caption, New beginnings, no more ghosts. Alexander stared at the photo, once, twice, 3 times, and each time his chest ached, not with jealousy, not with regret, with relief, because now he was free, free to be a father, free to be a man, free to be present. And that was everything. He showed the photo to Isabella, not to gloat, not to prove a point, just to share. She studied it long, searching. Then, quietly, she looks happy. Alexander nodded. Yeah, she does. Isabella looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, her eyes were wet. You're free, Alexander. She wore jeans, a soft sweater, her hair loose, no makeup, just her. And around her, her soul spilled onto canvas. Motherhood as masterpiece. That's what the critics called it. She called it survival. The first painting, large, bold, heartbreaking, showed Theo as a newborn, swaddled in blue, Isabella's face half-shadowed, eyes hollow with exhaustion and awe. The caption, The night I became more than myself. The next, Theo at 2, laughing in a puddle, rain soaking his curls, Isabella kneeling beside him, one hand on his back, the other holding an umbrella that did nothing to shield her. Caption, I would drown for you. Then, Theo at 4, standing in front of a closed door, tiny hand raised like he was about to knock, tears streaking his cheeks. Behind him, Isabella's shadow, blurred, distant, holding herself together. Caption, The day you asked for him, and he didn't answer. And then the final piece, the one that made people stop, breathe, cry. It was them, all 3 of them. Alexander on his knees in the grass, band-aids in hand, face streaked with sweat and love. Isabella beside him, kissing Theo's scraped knee, fingers brushing Alexander's wrist. Theo between them, sniffling, then smiling, then throwing his arms around his father's neck. Caption, The day we started again. No names, no dates, just truth. Raw, real, beautiful. Alexander didn't know she'd invited him. He showed up anyway, not in a suit, not in polished shoes, in jeans, sweater, sneakers, the kind of clothes he wore on Saturdays. He walked in, hesitant, heart pounding, and stopped dead, because there she was, on the wall, in pain, in love, in them. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at the way she'd painted his hands, trembling, reverent, fatherly, at the way she'd painted her own eyes, tired but tender, guarded but giving, at the way she'd painted Theo, caught between them, not torn but held. And then, quietly, he whispered, Isabella. She turned, saw him, and for the first time, She didn't look away, didn't brace, didn't guard. She just smiled. Small, soft, real. You came. He nodded, throat tight, eyes burning. I didn't know you'd invited me. I didn't, she said softly, but I hoped you would. He stepped closer, heart pounding, chest aching. These are incredible. You're incredible. She looked down, cheeks flushing, voice trembling. They're just moments, the ones I didn't want to forget. He reached out, slowly, carefully, and brushed his fingers over the edge of the final canvas, not touching the paint, not claiming it, just honoring it. You didn't forget, he whispered. You remembered, even when I didn't deserve it. She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time her eyes were wet. I didn't remember for you, she said softly. I remembered for him, for me, for us. He met her gaze, eyes burning, voice trembling. And now, she hesitated. Then quietly, now, I'm letting you see them. That's something, isn't it? He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. It's everything. They didn't talk about the paintings after that. Didn't talk about the press. Didn't talk about the critics calling her the voice of modern motherhood. They just walked, side by side, through the gallery, past strangers whispering, pointing, crying, past Theo's laughter, caught forever in brushstrokes, past their pain, transformed into beauty. And then, quietly, she said, I'm scared, Alexander. He stopped, turned to her, heart pounding. Of what? She looked at him, eyes wet, voice trembling. Of this, of us, of letting you back in, of hoping again, of loving you again. He didn't speak, didn't move, just listened. I spent 8 months learning to live without you, she whispered, learning to be enough. For him, for me. And now you're here, kneeling in the grass, fixing scraped knees, showing up. And I don't know how to unlearn the fear. He reached out, slowly, carefully, and brushed his fingers over hers, not holding, not claiming, just touching. I'm not asking you to unlearn it, he whispered. I'm asking you to let me walk beside you while you learn to trust it again, however long it takes, however hard it is. She studied him, long searching, then quietly, stay tonight, on the couch. Don't wake him, don't touch anything, just be here. He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. Thank you. She turned to leave, paused, looked back. And Alexander? Her voice, soft, trembling, terrified, whispering, I'm scared, Alexander, of loving you again. It echoed in his skull, not as a rejection, not as a warning, as an invitation, a fragile, trembling, beautiful invitation. And he didn't know what to do with it, because for the first time in his life, he didn't want to fix it, didn't want to rush it, didn't want to win her. He just wanted to be there, however long it took, however hard it was, for her, for Theo, for them. Morning came too soon. Sunlight spilled through the curtains, golden, warm, forgiving. He heard footsteps, soft, familiar. Isabella. She stopped in the doorway, arms crossed, hair loose, eyes still heavy with sleep. You're still here, she said softly. He sat up, slow, careful, heart pounding. I didn't want to leave. She studied him, long searching. Then, quietly, coffee's ready. He followed her to the kitchen, barefoot, still in yesterday's sweater, hair wild, and sat at the table. She handed him a mug, black, no sugar, just how he liked it. Their fingers brushed, warm, familiar, real. Thank you, he whispered. She nodded, still not looking at him. Theo's still asleep. You can stay until he wakes up. Then you should go. Alexander's chest tightened. I understand. She finally turned, eyes guarded, voice soft. This doesn't mean anything, Alexander. Not yet. Not like that. I know. I'm not ready to forgive you. I know. I'm not ready to trust you. I know. She stepped closer, heart pounding, eyes burning. But I'm ready to try. For him. For Theo, because he deserves a father who shows up. Even if I'm still scared. Alexander's breath caught. He didn't promise her forever. Didn't promise her love. Didn't promise her anything she wasn't ready to hear. He just nodded. Then I'll keep showing up. However long it takes. However hard it is. For him. For you. For me. She studied him, long searching. Then quietly, sit. Drink your coffee. Before it gets cold. He did. Not because he wanted to. Because he needed to. Because for the first time in 8 months, she was letting him back in. Not all the way. Not yet. But enough. The days that followed were fragile. Beautiful. Terrifying. Alexander showed up. Not just on Saturdays, but on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, with band-aids, with snacks, with storybooks, with presents. He didn't push. Didn't rush. Didn't ask for more. He just showed up. And slowly, so slowly they almost didn't notice, the walls between them began to crumble. Isabella started letting him tuck Theo in at night. Started letting him read bedtime stories. Started letting him sit beside her on the couch. Shoulders almost touching, hands brushing as they passed juice boxes. Laughter mingling as Theo told his wild, exaggerated stories. It was small, subtle, fragile, but it was there. And Alexander? He didn't push, didn't rush, didn't ask for more. He just showed up, every day, on time, with band-aids,